College isn't easy. Many struggle while in their first year of college. Being away from home and living with a roommate is a big change for most. But there's something darker I'd like to talk about. Something that most people don't want to discuss. Taking care of your mental health is no joke. And for a busy college student, it may be more difficult to find the time to focus on your mental stability. For those suffering with depression, every day is a living nightmare. Depression is like drowning, except everybody around you can swim. To many, this statement rings true. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, major depressive disorder is the leading cause of disability in the U.S. from ages 15 to 44. I met with both psychology professors and biology professors to get a better understanding of what depression is and what college professors really think.
For depression specifically, I know that there are differences in terms of serotonin receptors and dopamine neurotransmitter release. Serotonin is one of the chemicals that nerve cells use to communicate with each other. So neurotransmitters, just generally speaking, are chemicals that are released from one nerve cell that carry the message to the next nerve cell. Not having serotonin released and not having it bind to receptors means that some nerve cells might not be receiving the communication that they would normally get from other nerve cells. And serotonin is particularly important in the area of the brain that's involved with emotions.
Depression is a mood disorder, and it has been listed in the DSM-4, which is our diagnostic manual, for many, many years. It's comprised of a saddened mood, crying all the time. Sometimes agitation is connected to it as well. It could be not sleeping at all or sleeping all of the time.
I think a lot of people think of depression or use the term in like a colloquial sense of just meaning that they feel sad or down. But the syndrome of depression, as we think of it in the mental health field, is a lot different than that. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that both psychologists and psychiatrists and other practitioners use, depression is more of a syndrome. Typically when assigning a diagnosis, we look for a persistent period of experiencing this, so at least 2 weeks or more.
It's quite normal for all of us to have depressed feelings, feel sad, feel disappointed, feel weary, feel dread. Depression is really when people get stuck in those feelings and can't get out of them, and it starts affecting other parts of their life. And it turns out that we're all the kind of person who can get depressed.
Depression affects more than 15 million American adults, which is about 6.7% of the population. And women are more prone to it than men. In America, about 1 in 5 women struggles with depression. As for anxiety, the National Institute of Mental Health says that anxiety disorders affect over 40 million adults in the United States. That's about 18% of the population. Not to mention, anxiety disorders often co-occur with other disorders, such as depression, eating disorders, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Anxiety and depression disorders are treatable, yet only 1/3 of those diagnosed receive treatment. So why do people struggle with reaching out to get help? There are mainly 4 big reasons: cost, judgment, fear of being a burden, and fear of not being taken seriously. For starters, there's cost. But there's more to it than insurance. Therapy on top of medication can be very expensive and deters many from seeking help. Cognitive behavioral therapy, a common suggestion for those suffering with their mental health, can be expensive, sometimes costing $100 or more per hour.
It's a juggling act because of insurance, so we kind of see what their insurance will allow.
You can get some quality care through insurers, but as I said before, a lot of the psychotherapy type treatments that are recommended for depression that have that empirical support, a lot of times practitioners who do those types of therapy don't accept insurance. So out of pocket for very well-trained clinicians, I would say could run anywhere between $150 and $200.
For most people diagnosed with depression or anxiety, they are required to see both a psychologist and a psychiatrist. What makes them different?
So it's a pretty big difference. A psychiatrist is someone who has gone to medical school. So they've done full medical training and then complete a specialized residency. So a psychiatrist is someone who, more broadly speaking here, is someone who is spending their time doing more medication management and has the authority to prescribe medications for individuals. A psychologist goes to graduate school, and typically these individuals are trained a little bit more heavily on the research end of understanding psychopathology and treatment outcome, and also get very heavy training in delivering psychotherapy. But they are not able to, in most states, prescribe medications in the way that psychiatrists are.
Because of the stigma surrounding mental health, people become fearful of either being judged, being a burden to their friends and family, or not being taken seriously. In fact, many college students admit they are too afraid to use anxiety or depression as a justification for missing class.
I would say no, because a lot of times mental health isn't held in the same regard as physical health. So someone can say, I am having a really bad stomach ache, and they'll say, oh, no, yeah, no problem, take the day off. But if you're saying, I'm having really bad depression, I can't get out of bed this morning, they're going to say, okay, get over it. You're here to focus on school, you're here to focus on your education, but do you put your education first, or do you put your own mental health and mental awareness first?
But what do college professors really think?
Would you, as a professor, accept anxiety or depression as a justification for missing class?
Yes, and I have. I'm not going to add to their stress by saying no.
Absolutely. I can't teach my students unless they're in a place of where they can be receptive. I'm a human being, so I know what it's like to have unexpected issues come up.
Student has come to talk to me about an issue like that and says that it might be impeding their performance. Are they working toward getting the adequate help that they need?
Oh, that's a good question. I think whenever students are seeking special treatment for any kind of circumstances, it's important that they provide some documentation. I also think it's not fair to other students if you just give people a pass because they tell you they're feeling bad.
It depends on severity. One of the things when you make a diagnosis, especially in the most recent DSM-5, you always give a severity indicator. So if you have someone who is mildly depressed, they may be able to continue to go to classes. But if you have someone who's severely depressed, they will not be able to go to class. They probably won't even be able to get out of the bed.
And what can college students do to get help while at school?
Make sure you have mentors you trust, a therapist, make sure you're eating well, getting sleep, but do your best to figure out what makes you tick, what makes you work, what makes you most effective and most productive, and and then do those things.
Here at Albright, we have, of course, the counseling center would be the front line, except for sometimes mental illness presents, or people understand it better through physical symptoms. So a lot of our clients come through the health center. It's much better now than it used to be. A lot of our students, and a lot of students across the country, they come to college already having engaged services. So they've already had a therapist, they've already had a psychiatrist, they've already been in contact with mental health professionals. So it is not uncommon for them to then engage services here. I even have parents calling and students calling before they come to Albright asking what kind of services we have available. Are we seeing every student that needs the help? Absolutely not. We couldn't. We don't have the time to see everyone. We don't have enough hours. But the hours that we have available, they are being used fully. We have a very good working relationship with Reading Health Systems, as well as a number of the private practitioners in the area. If you try to get an appointment in the community, especially for a psychiatrist, you may have to wait 3 to 6 months.
How often do students come to you with personal or mental health issues?
Very often. I was going to say every day. Just about every day I'm on campus.
Spending time with family, friends, And even your pets can also help lessen the symptoms of depression and anxiety. Your professors and peers are there to support you, so don't be afraid to reach out.
And Albright's supposed to be a place that helps remind all of you that, yes, this is exactly what it's about, and you're going to be just fine.